The U.S. newspaper reported that some NATO countries are considering sending military instructors to Ukraine. The Ukraine Peace Summit in Switzerland is expected to fail. The number of times NATO intercepts Russian aircraft over the Baltic Sea is increasing. Britain develops radio weapons to handle UAV swarms at extremely low prices. The U.S. newspaper reported that some NATO countries are considering sending military instructors to Ukraine. Some NATO countries are said to be publicly discussing scenarios of sending military experts or contractors to Ukraine to support training and weapons maintenance for the Ukrainian army. The New York Times, citing knowledgeable sources, said on May 16 that Ukraine had asked the U.S. and other allies to help train 150,000 soldiers to speed up deployment to the front line. U.S. military sources mentioned in the article said that moving training activities to Ukraine will help U.S. trainers quickly gather information about changes taking place on the Ukrainian front, including, ability allows them to tailor their training. However, the U.S. and its allies remain hesitant to this idea because an attack, by Russia, on their trainers in Ukraine could lead to invoking NATO's collective defense clause, as well as such as the need to strengthen air defense for protection. The New York Times quoted an anonymous official as saying that one of the locations being considered for training activities inside Ukraine is Lviv province in the western part of the country. However, Lviv has many times become the target of Russian attacks. Meanwhile, according to many Western officials, it is still possible to train large numbers of Ukrainian soldiers at barracks in Germany and Poland as currently, but that will require huge logistics. The source also said, other NATO allies, including Britain, Germany, and France, are working with defense contractors in Ukraine to help build and repair weapons systems near combat zones. According to U.S. officials and former officials, the White House is reviewing the ban on U.S. defense contractors entering Ukraine. A small number of contractors have been authorized to produce specific weapons systems for Ukraine, including the Patriot air defense system with permission from the State Department. The U.S. and its allies have not yet commented on the above information. The West has continuously provided aid to Ukraine since the Russia-Ukraine conflict broke out in February 2022. Russia estimates that NATO and its partners have spent about $132 billion in military aid for Ukraine, of which the U.S. alone spent $63 billion. Over the past 2 years, these countries have transferred to Ukraine about 800 tanks, 3,500 armored vehicles, 270 multiple rocket systems, 130 aircraft, helicopters, and more than 30,000 drones, 290,000 anti-tank weapons. The Ukraine Peace Summit in Switzerland is expected to fail. The Ukraine Peace Summit in Switzerland is expected to fail because it lacks a party directly involved in the conflict and a main sponsor for Kyiv. According to Ukrainian political scientist Vadim Karasev, U.S. President Joe Biden decided not to participate in such a meaningless event as the Peace Summit on Ukraine in Switzerland organized by Kyiv and Bern. This was recently stated by Mr. Vadim Karasev on the YouTube channel Yes, It Is, by journalists Max Nazarov, Nazar Ruslanovic Dioroditsa, and Yaroslava Maslova, former presenters of the program of the Nash TV channel, the broadcast of which was blocked at the request of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine in February 2022. According to the media, the above peace summit is scheduled to take place on June 15 to 16 in Buggenstock, Switzerland. 160 delegations, including countries and international organizations, are said to have been invited there to study the peace formula proposed by Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky. It is unclear whether other subjects will attend or not, but it is certain that the Russian representative will not attend, because he was not invited. The political scientist noted that Washington fully understands and appreciates the reality of what can be achieved at this conference. Therefore, the U.S. leader considers flying across the Atlantic Ocean useless, while he could receive a lot of criticism before the presidential election. Russian leader Vladimir Putin is not present, which means there will be no discussion of a ceasefire agreement, so there is certainly no peace agreement. Therefore, this conference is no different from previous Western meetings to provide aid to Ukraine. So why does Mr. Biden have to participate in a conference while knowing for sure that it will not be successful and encounter a dangerous situation right before the election? Expert Karasev said that Mr. Biden will act diplomatically and his press agency will only inform the public that the U.S. head of state cannot attend such an important event for reasons force majeure, for example due to health problems. According to analysts, the fact that the U.S. president and the Russian president were not present at the conference in Switzerland shows that the proposed purpose of this conference is extremely unreasonable when one of the two subjects of the conference is absent. Ceasefire agreement and a sponsor for one side. The number of times NATO intercepts Russian aircraft over the Baltic Sea is increasing. According to NATO sources on May 15, in the first quarter of 2024, the number of times NATO fighter jets were dispatched to intercept Russian military aircraft near the airspace of allied countries over the Baltic Sea increased from 20% to 25%. Although the specific number of Russian aircraft was not disclosed, the source said NATO has recorded an increase in Russian aircraft appearing near the territory of allied countries. Currently, interdictions mainly involve Russian surveillance or transport aircraft, instead of fighter aircraft or strategic bombers as before. The reason for this change is still unclear, but one theory is that Russia needs to concentrate fighter and bomber aircraft on the military campaign in Ukraine, where fighting is increasingly fierce. In addition, NATO's increase in exercises may also cause Russia to adjust its military tactics in the region. NATO has also increased its military presence along Europe's eastern flank, following Russia's attack on Ukraine in February 2022. This organization has dispatched more fighters to the area and established a defense system on the ground. In addition, NATO also deployed additional fighter aircraft to Romania to protect the alliance's southeastern border against Russian attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure. In early 2024, NATO conducted its largest military exercise since the Cold War, with the participation of about 90,000 troops. The purpose of the exercise is to rehearse the implementation of NATO's defense plans against a potential attack from Russia. These moves reflect growing tensions between NATO and Russia, in the context of the increasingly complicated situation in Ukraine and increased military activities in the region. Britain develops radio weapons to handle UAV swarms at extremely low prices. He revealed that he is developing a new type of radio frequency-directed energy weapon, RFDW, which can neutralize a swarm of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, for only 12 cents per shot. According to the British Ministry of Defence, the new weapon will use radio waves to detect, track and disable electronic components at a range of up to 1000 m. RFDW is a more cost-effective option than traditional missile systems, while also providing precise targeting capabilities and being relatively easy to use thanks to highly automated technology, according to Business Insider on May 16. In addition, the RFDW can be mounted on the back of a truck or other vehicle and is designed to operate on land, air, and sea. This weapon will be tested in the field this summer, according to the British Ministry of Defence. Mr. Paul Hollinshead, Chief Executive of the UK Defence Science and Technology Laboratory, said that the system would give the UK Armed Forces a decisive operational advantage and neutralise deadly threats. People. The conflict in Ukraine has highlighted the growing importance of UAVs to modern warfare. British Defence Procurement Minister James Cartledge said, "The fighting in Ukraine shows us the importance of deploying unmanned systems, and we must be able to defend against them. As we increase defence spending over the coming years, our defence UAV strategy will ensure the UK stays at the forefront of this process." Directed energy weapons, including high-energy lasers and high-power microwave or radio frequency devices, have taken on new importance as they are seen as the future of UAV and counter-intercept warfare. Satellite. Not only Britain, other countries such as France, China, Germany, Russia, India, and Israel are also researching and developing their own directed energy weapons. According to a 2023 report by the U.S. State Audit Office, GAO, The Pentagon is spending $1 billion per year on directed energy weapons to fight UAVs and missiles.